into next season after all the experience he's had with all the guys he's got coming back? Where do you think the expectation should lie with Hooker and his development heading into next season?
I think anytime you get a quarterback that plays really well as a junior, that gets to have a coordinator and a head coach and a position coach all come back, the expectation should be raised. I mean, you're going to be better regardless. Does the ball always bounce your way? I don't know. Does it mean way more wins? I'm not sure. But anytime you go into a game in the Southeastern Conference and you can say we have as good or a better quarterback than the other team, then you got to feel pretty good about your chances to win. So he's not going to win the Heisman. I mean, Hendon Hooker's not going to be the first UT football player to win the Heisman Trophy. That's not going to happen. But we're going to play 10 games that we could easily win. How many of those do you win? I mean, Georgia, Bama, I'll believe it when I see it. But of the other 10, I mean, I don't know that we won't be favored to win most of them. So, yeah, there's a lot of room for a lot of growth there, being a 7-win team last year.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree. Sorry, was that Grant over there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, playing off that, watching the Vols since your time with the team came to an end, what's it been like seeing the highs and lows of our program following Fulmer's exit, all the coaches we've had since? There's been a lot that's happened.
It's been fun because I love it. So I feel like, anytime I truly enjoy game day. I enjoy watching our team play. I enjoy, as you get older, you get to see like what the fan experience is really like and what they go through, and doing the job I do. I've gotten to learn a lot about that part of it, which has been really, really fun for me. And I enjoy it. I kind of fancy myself a fan coach since I don't coach players. I just try to coach the game up a little bit, but I feel like most of that time watching was in pure misery because we sucked. And we were terrible, and we would lose to Georgia State and then a bad BYU team. And we would lose to Florida, even though they were worse than we were every year. It seemed like it's been hard, but I think that having Josh Heupel kind of makes me forget about all that. Like, you got to sometimes, what's the saying? You got to kiss a few frogs before you kiss the prince.
Yeah, that's right.
But we had to kiss Lane Kiffin and Derek Dooley, and we had to kiss Butch Jones and Jeremy Pruitt. Looks like maybe we're done kissing. Maybe he's our prince. We'll find out.
I hope so. Dominic, are you next? Dom?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and ask a question here. As someone who's also from the West, I'm really curious what made you decide UT was the school for you.
So I grew up going to Oregon and Oregon State football games. Pac-12 football at the time, now Pac-10. Pac-10 then, now Pac-12. But you can fit, let's see, Oregon's like 55,000. In research, they just did it, and it's like 40,000. So you can, in both of those football stadiums, have standing room only crowds, and there's still not as many people as there is in Neyland Stadium. And I came for a football game, and I like Coach Fulmer. He was real honest with me. A lot of coaches in recruiting, they blow smoke and tell you how great you are. And Coach Fulmer said, well, I'm going to get another quarterback, and I don't know if you're going to play, but I'll guarantee you reps in training camp. And I thought that, that's honest. You can do that. He's the head coach. If he wants to put me in there with the ones in training camp, he can do that. And then what I do from there is up to me. And I like that. I found comfort in that, knowing that I would get a shot and that it would be up to me. And ultimately it ended up working out. But the fans for the 2003 Vandy game, the stadium, the tailgating, the everything, I was just like, where am I? And now I live here and raise kids here. Being
coached under Fulmer, do you ever, with our coaches that came later, do you ever have any first impressions of coaches, or you feel like they're going to be a good coach, or do you feel like they're going to be a bad coach?
I liked Butch Jones, and a lot of people did for the first couple of years.
Right.
His nickname was Butch Stones. He'd always go for it on fourth down. He didn't care. Everybody loved it. We were the underdog. And then this place got too big for him, and it changed him, and the scrutiny changed him, and the expectations changed him. And it does that. I mean, being the coach at Tennessee can be like being the president. You look at him, and 4 years later, you're like, well, he aged 20 years in 4 years. But I think Butch is probably the only one. Dooley, I didn't. Lane, I didn't, because he was the guy replacing my coach, and I had players on the team that I had just played with that would call me to vent about how awful he was.
I heard stuff about that.
So it's just hard. I just never and then I was in an airport, and he had just gotten hired. We just went through the Senior Bowl together. I know he knew who I was. I'm not the don't you know who I am guy, but I know he knew who I was. Layla even knew who I was. And he had just gotten the job, and I was in the NFL traveling somewhere in an airport. I went to shake his hand, and he slipped me the fish. Here, shake my hand real quick. And then he just kind of like limp thumbed me.
Oh my!
And like he did like a very meh handshake. I was super hothead and wild back then, and I turned around like I was going to go snatch his shirt and tell him, and my buddy would grab. He's like, "You cannot beat up the new Tennessee football coach." And I was like, "Well, I guess you're right, probably." But I didn't like Lane from then. I don't mind him now. He's still a troll, but he's a little different.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, at least you didn't throw a golf ball at his head. I guess.
None of them were my coach. Like Fulmer's my coach. Like I was talking to him the other day. It's like when it's not your guy, it's just different.
It's different.
But then you get older, you can't. You're not playing anymore. And I feel like Heupel, although he's very different than Coach Fulmer, some of the very fundamental things that he's like all about are very similar, and I do like that.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of hype around Heupel, no pun intended, here on campus. I know people who are like close interacting with the football team who like him. Connor, do you have any starting questions to ask?
Yeah, so I know it's been big news that we just got our first 5-star quarterback recruit in Tennessee history with Nico Lamalava, but I got kind of a
Iomai-Lava, I think.
Now, what is it?
Iomai-Lava.
We'll eventually figure out how to say it.
Yes, I swear.
I sometimes make the last part of it llama, and I don't try to. Iomai-Lama. Anyway, keep going.
All right, so kind of a two-parter here with you playing quarterback here, obviously. What is it like to kind of play not necessarily in the shadow of Peyton Manning, but kind of be like always compared by the fans to Peyton playing quarterback here? And do you think he can live up to all the pressure? And was it too much money that we necessarily gave him to come here?
Probably. But so I think the Peyton thing is funny because I remember he always would train with us in July every year. And so I got to campus on July 4th. I was just turned 18 years old. I was on campus. And then here we are a week later, and Peyton Manning. And this is like prime peak, best player in the 5-time MVP type Peyton Manning coming in. I was like, oh my gosh, that's like really him. So then we started throwing the ball, and he taught us how to do his warm up, which, he's always instructed. He's like, make sure they do it right. And we did that. And then we started throwing the ball. And I was like, after like 10 minutes, I was like, you guys, I have a stronger arm than Peyton Manning does. I was like, this is crazy. I was like, I can throw it farther. I can throw it harder. I was like, oh my God. And then we did the 7-on-7 drills for an hour and a half. It's supposed to be like 45 minutes, but when Peyton runs it, it's like a full day. And he didn't miss one throw. He literally completed every single throw he made. And the only one he got mad at was a completion like 5 feet behind him. And the guy still caught it. And he was like cussing himself. And we were like, this is next level. We can't, we're trying to get a completion. We're just trying to throw the ball so our guys catch it. And he was so further just past anything mentally I could have ever seen. And so I had that. And then I played well. And I got some questions by the media. And they were like, what do you think about, just like you just asked, Connor, the next Peyton Manning? And I remember like spitting my water. I was like, wait, what? Like really? I had perspective even at a young age. I was like, really? We've played 3 games. And they think if you're a tall white guy that played after Peyton, you're the next Peyton. And it's like that everywhere. If you're the next whatever that looks similar, acts similar, whatever it is, then everyone's like, oh, that's the next one. Like Hendon Hooker started playing good last year. This is the new Josh Dobbs. Like, no, that's lazy. That's lazy. But I don't know. That never got me too much. I never worried about that. Trying to be something no one's capable of being. That's a recipe for failure. But and then as far as Nico goes, listen, I'm glad we found a way to come up with enough money to make that a good choice for him. And I do think this is a great place for him. I think it'll work for him if he gets a chance to start because his game in high school, he scrambles a lot. He throws it quick a lot, slants, RPOs, deep balls. He kind of does what we do here. I mean, my thing with Hendon Hooker this year is I need to see him get better from the pocket. When it's 3rd and 9 and a quarterback run's not going to get the chains and they're bringing pressure and they're in you, can you stand in there and play the game old school? Because that's how you still move the chains on 3rd and long. And we were not very good on 3rd and long last year. So I kind of think the same thing with Nico. He does in high school. He doesn't really ever just sit in the pocket. He either throws it quick or he takes off because no one can tackle him. And those are both great things to do. But I think there'll be a little bit of a learning curve for him there when you do need to step back, stand in the pocket, move over, throw the ball down the field. He'll have to learn that a little bit, but a lot of guys do. That's if you want the ballers now, all of them play like Nico. So I have very high hopes for him. And when he gets here, if he wins the job, I think he'll have a ton of success.
I know we all hope so as well. And, we always talk on the show, especially last fall, we talked a lot about, how like, I know you guys were on the show, Grant and Devin, we talked a lot about how Josh Heupel, a lot of people were saying he can't recruit. And we're like, well, that's just wrong. Cause now we look at that and we see this, but I always say this, I say this all the time. It's almost like my catchphrase. We've learned in the past years, just because we have good recruits does not make a good football team, but it's kind of seemed to turn around with Heupel here. Where do you see Tennessee being in these next few years? Like, do you honestly see Tennessee going up and getting better, staying the same, or are you kind of like, I can't predict the future, man? Like, I don't know.
Well, of course I can't, but I think if Josh Heupel can put a couple years together where we show progress and he can start getting some players drafted, because listen, when you're a new coach, you can sell new, bring it back, fans, this, that, the other. Look at what we've done with all these other players. And you can sell all that stuff and put together a couple classes in hopes that you can put together what they're going to do right now with the 2023 class. Because you eventually, if you want to compete, it's like what did Kirby Smart say last year, and every coach that's ever coached in the SEC, if you want to compete on Saturday, you have to compete with everybody else that you're competing with every day of the week in recruiting. And last year, Kirby Smart was famous for saying, listen, it's all about it's players, not plays. We got ballers out here, and they're going to ball. And players love to see and hear that kind of stuff. And so he needs to – I'll tell you what a big one would be, and it already helped him with Nico last year. I know that had a big part of it. But if Hendon Hooker can go do some stuff like all the fans are hoping he can do and go mess around and be, I don't know, like maybe a second or a third-round draft pick or something like that, then he'll be able to sell that like crazy. They sold what they did with Velus Jones Jr. last year. New staff comes in, he's a different player. Cedric Tillman, different player. Those guys need to go get drafted. And when they can go get drafted, then you can really start consistently putting those recruits in the bank.
I know, Dom, you had a question about the transfer portal.
Yeah.
I will not go with you in the transfer portal.
I was just going to ask, with all these new recruits, do you see them actually staying here with how the transfer portal has shaken up with the NIL deals, making everybody go everywhere and seemingly no real loyalty right now? And do you think that Heupel can build loyalty in this program?
I think you have to have a plan for both. So you used to recruit guys, and then we called it de-recruiting them, or boot camp, right? You get people excited and then you drop the bomb on them. And it's like, holy cow, this is so hard. Now, when you do that, you got to make sure you don't lose guys. You have to have great relationships with them. Every coach should get paid an extra $50,000 to be there as a sports psychologist to help their young players that aren't playing yet, but are really talented to stay the course. The programs that win are the guys that don't have that. Nick Saban has backups. Mac Jones waiting for 4 years, almost 3.5 years to become the quarterback, to become a first-round draft pick. You can sell that to pay. That's what Kirby sells. That's what Saban sells. That's what Ryan Day sells. That's what Dabo's been selling. Just because you don't play as a freshman doesn't mean you're not a first-round draft pick. Because now everybody, when they don't play, they want to leave. Right? I mean, you get a job. The job is totally different than you thought it was going to be. You want to leave. And maybe that's a good job if you stick it out. It's different for every player. I think there's a lot of players that go in the portal that the coaches are fine with leaving. On the flip side of that. So, yeah, you're going to lose some players that you don't want to lose, but you're going to lose some you do, and at least you can replace 7. Dom, I would say the most important part of the portal is the fact that you can replace guys. When that first came out, that we had 20 players leave, and you're going, and we can't, so we just are screwed. Just good luck. That sucks. So now you can at least go get 7. So if you lose 9 players in the portal in 1 year, which you'd go, man, that is terrible. We got hammered. Well, at least you can go replace them 7 of the 9. You got to be good at that. Transfer portal recruiting and getting from there is very important, because there's a lot of guys that can play. For whatever reason, they think the grass is greener. Maybe it is at Tennessee.
Our producer, Jason, on StreamYard says, in my eyes, the portal forces coaches to be more transparent because they could just stiff if you lied to them. Yeah, and he also, going back to Nico, he says, do you think Taven will have an advantage over Nico beyond having an extra year in him for his game being more of the meat and potatoes, quick throws, and reading defenses methodically rather than the flashiness of a Nico type?
That's my biggest thing, because I think Taven Jackson is a great player, and I know the coaches think he could be a great player. Everyone over there is super excited about that guy. So then you get a recruit, for the next year, and I would say this about Tavon Jackson: if Tavon Jackson can handle the Nico hype and go to work and grind and do what he needs to do every day to learn the position better and the offense better and executing better. And if he is that mentally tough to do that, because I feel like most players in that situation would not handle that well. You know, you just got a guy like, I know Harrison Bailey didn't like that. He didn't win the job just to start, and then he was frustrated, and then you play a little bit, then you're not the starter again. You're just kind of all over the place, and that messes with guys, and that's normal. I'm not knocking Harrison for that. That is normal. But if Tavon Jackson's going to stay here and win the job and be great here, he will have to be a very, very mentally tough football player.
And going off that, the perseverance through a lot of the pressure that being a member of this Tennessee football team can have. You said that being a coach of this team is like being president with the scrutiny you face. Heupel having had a lot of success at QB, you know, being QB1 at Oklahoma, winning the national championship and all the awards that follow. Do you think that positions him to uniquely handle the scrutiny that comes with being Tennessee's head coach, unlike the other people we've had since Fulmer?
Yeah, I think Lane could handle it now, but at 34, not a chance. Butch Jones learned to care too much. He just it wrecked him. When people didn't like him and they were mad at the program and saying things, he internalized that and handled it awfully. But Dooley never really cared. He wanted to leave after the 2011 Kentucky game. He told Dave Hart he didn't want to coach anymore, and Dave Hart had just got the job, and he was like, no, I'm not hiring a football coach. I just got here. You need to keep coaching. So that whole 2012 season, the 11 Kentucky game and the 12 season, nobody even wanted to be there. So, no, definitely not him. And Pruitt kind of had the right mentality a little bit in that, you know, like he didn't care what anybody thought. But the problem was he didn't care what anybody thought. Like, that can't be like all inclusive. You can't just care zero about every booster, every boss, every player. You know, he just didn't care. He had a horrible attitude. I think there's a difference in having kind of a give zero attitude, like I think Heupel kind of has, but about the right things. That you can't do that with everything. Like, does he care really what the fans' expectations are at all for Hendon Hooker? Zero. Cares none. Does he care that season tickets are being bought? Yeah. You know, like that. Like, so that's, I don't know. I do think he has the right mentality. I think to your point about everything that he's done before getting here. The one thing that's going to be curious is there's expectations on our team this year. So we don't meet those. It's easy to coach year one anywhere, right? He's playing with house money all year last year, and they played well. But now they're going to be favored to win 8 or 9 probably of the game. 7 to 9 of the games they're going to play this year. They're going to be the team to win, the team that the other team needs to try to beat. So I'll see how he handles a year like that. Because that year around here, I've always said it, when you win, playing at Tennessee when you win, there's nothing like it. And playing at Tennessee when you lose, there's nothing like it. And they need to – I'm curious how he'll handle that. Maybe he won't have that. I mean, the expectations change. The disappointment changes. You know, if he wins 10 this year, everyone's going to say in year 3, this is the year we beat Georgia and we take the East back. Well, maybe not. You know, maybe you win 8 and then you win another 10 or 11. I mean, at this point, I'll take them every day of the week, though. I feel like our guys are prepared every time they go play and they have a chance to win any game they play. And that, at least, we haven't been able to say that in a long time.
Yeah, I'm really, that made me super optimistic, that speech.
Did it?
Yes. It was a lot.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Being a Vol fan for forever and just sitting through, my dad always tells me, he's like, you were the curse. You really, after you started coming,
Your dad does sound like
after you started coming into the games, like, it just went downhill from there.
Totally your fault. Blame it all on Chloe.
I know we also had some questions. We also want to talk, if you're okay with it, about your life, like your personal time at Tennessee, even though we already have a little bit. And before that, Devin, I know you spent a lot of time reading about Erik here, and you had some questions about his time besides football, right?
Bring it all. Anything's fair game.
Yeah. I was wondering, I read a little bit about you again. It was back in that Wikipedia page, you know, Campering. You should really check it out. It's pretty interesting stuff. But I saw that you did a lot of different sports. I saw that you were actually a really good basketball player, a really good baseball player as well. That as a pitcher, you threw a 90-mile-per-hour ball in high school. So I was just wondering, what pulled you towards football among those other sports when you were really, really good at basketball and baseball as well?
So I'll give you this is a cool story. And I know this has happened a bunch, but not to people that I know. When I was a high school prospect, I went to Palo Alto, California, and Stanford offered me a scholarship in football, basketball, and baseball, and said, you can't play 3, but you can pick 2. And then we'd love for you to narrow it down to 1. But if you're not sure, we're willing to let you pick whatever you play. And that was like a really cool, like I remember thinking I was so awesome when that happened. I was like 16 years old, just couldn't tell me anything. But Chloe, then I had to take the SAT.
Oh no.
I got 1,000. I was hungover and I was in high school. I don't recommend it. That's really terrible. But I got 1,000 on the SAT, and Stanford called back and said, Erik, now, would you be willing to, they danced around it. Oh, and I was like, come on. And they were like, you need to take the SAT again. I was like, nope, I'm going to Tennessee. So awesome, fun. I got my ankles broken in an AAU basketball game when I was in high school from a potential for an overall top 5 lottery pick point guard. You won't know him. You guys are young. His name's Sebastian Telfair. He crossed me over. You remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So he crosses me over in a gym with like 8,000 people. Now I would have been trending on YouTube or whatever you kids watch. He crossed me over and it was like a tree. My ankle went click and I fell down 6'6", and all of me fell on the ground. And he didn't go by me. He like a raptor, like backed up and was like stalking his prey. And he waited for me to get up. And he's going to do it to me again. And I don't know what our audience is here. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. I stood up, gave him the middle finger, walked over to the bench and sat on the bench and said, in that moment, I'm playing football. I can't guard these clowns. This is crazy. They're going around me, just dunking on me, just embarrassing. I'd score like 20 a game, but I'd give up like 60, so we'd never win. So lateral quickness got me there. I probably should have been a baseball player. I was a better pitcher than anything. I could throw. I clocked 92 as a 15-year-old. Used to have a bunch of 10 scouts a game that would come watch me play, and with my last name, it never hurt. But that was boring for me. I was too hyper and to just pitch every 4 games and just wait. Yeah, I didn't like all that. Yeah. So football was back then. Football quarterback was the deal. Now it's not as much like that anymore. But like when I played, the quarterback was the most noticed person on a campus, on a football team, anything. So that always growing up wanting to be the quarterback was always a dream of, I think, every young kid that puts his hands on the ball and tries to spin it.
Right.
Going off that, you've had an incredible journey in life, going from QB1 at Tennessee to an NFL career. How does radio come into the equation? Did you have aspirations to enter into broadcast beforehand, or what was the situation with that? How did you enter in?
I'm lazy and it's fun. Doing all the other stuff is hard. I joke with people all the time that I have the easiest job there by far. But talking about something that you care about, like if I had to do like news and talk about politics and stuff, it would make me nauseous. And I would do it. If that was my job, I would do it, right? I have 3 kids, got to provide. But I'm not passionate about that at all. If anything, I can't stand it. Sports, however, I love. I love sports. Everybody loves sports. Most everybody loves sports. So getting to talk about them every day, and my threes, I'll drop some knowledge on you. So I have 3 E's of good broadcasting. You want to hear them?
Yes.
Engage, enlighten, and entertain. If you can engage an audience and then either enlighten them or entertain them, one of the two, then they'll come back. And I feel like I love doing that. I'm very sarcastic. I like to talk trash. It's fun getting to banter with callers. And like I said earlier, I kind of fancy myself, and I've done different things like this in the past, probably do some more in the future, but I like teaching what people are watching because they love it. And our fan base is really smart. Schematically, I've learned that over the years. We have a lot of armchair quarterbacks, but we have a lot of pretty good armchair quarterbacks. And getting to further their, understanding of something happening is really fun for me because everybody loves it. And I love football, and I love Tennessee football. And I have grown to love all Tennessee sports. Coming here as a out of towner and then playing here for the most part. We had Pat Summitt, and I have great stories about her and Bruce Pearl in that era. We were just good at everything, but it was still more about football. Now, I'm as excited about our number 1 ranked Tennessee baseball team as I am our football team in spring practice, and that is not normal for me.
Right. Lane Kiffin can take that sweep on that happened over the weekend. Yep, exactly.
Talk about your all-time backfire. He just needs to stop. Get your popcorn ready, backfire. Throw the golf ball, backfire.
His son's already named Knox. So, I mean, that's already
I
you
know.
can't
enough as it is.
He
You can't
actually
take that
lived in
away.
my neighborhood when he just got hired as the coach here, and that was interesting.
That's a nice.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand how Lane Kiffin can talk so much without winning much of anything huge.
No, you just want to hear how great he is. Just ask him.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So going off more, you mentioned Pat Summitt, and I just want to ask you a few questions about what you thought about the teams here that aren't football.
Bring it.
Baseball, of course, and then also the Lady Vols. Lady Vols are one of my absolute favorite teams to watch here, along with the men's basketball team. But we talk about Kelly Harper. This is kind of going off the trail, but we talk about Kelly Harper here all the time. What do you think of Kelly Harper? I have to know.
I think she's really. So the first time I ever met her, I didn't know who she was. She had just gotten hired,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't watch women's basketball then,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't know who she was. And she was talking to me, and then she figured out who I was, and I was like, "You look important. Who are you?" Because that's just how I talk to people. It's so awful. And she was like, "Oh, I'm Kelly Harper. I played here. I'm the new women's basketball coach." And I was mortified. Mortified. I mean, I literally get on the radio to talk, and so then I of course knew who she was because I follow it and I know the name. I saw who we hired, but I hadn't met her yet, and she handled it like a pro. She just laughed.
Oh man.
Some people, when you do that to them, and it was totally an accident, they get like all in their feels about it, and they start feeling sorry or angry or something. She didn't care at all. In one ear, out the other. Did not care. She's like, "Okay, well, you're Eric. Okay, great, nice to meet you. Oh, you didn't know who I was? Well, okay, well, maybe you should learn. Haha." And she's balling right now. She's balling. It's crazy. They lost like how many players this year and still made it to the Sweet 16?
There was like 3 really.
Their best
big
player
losses.
and then like their third best. Yeah, it was a lot. So
Right.
that's good. Lady Vol's good.
Also, can you tell us one of your Pat Summitt stories?
Sure. So me and some guys, we were young, and we were standing outside. We always used to hang out. That class had Candace Parker in it, and so we used to hang out with her all the time. She's super nice, and I'll tell you an off-air story about something I said to her one time that was not okay, and she laughed, but whatever. But that we would go hang out. So there was like 5 of us. We were on our phones, and we had music playing, and we were being, probably looking back on it, very obnoxious 19 or 20-year-olds. But we were just waiting. We weren't doing anything wrong. But Pat Summitt walked out, and one of the guys dove in the truck to turn the music off. And we all stood like a tent hut. Like we all stood up like it was. And she just walks by us. We're all holding our phones in our hands. And she goes, "Hey, boys. Hey, when's the last time you called your moms to tell them how great they are?" And we were like, "Oh." We're like dropping our phones on the ground. We're like, Mom, I love you. And every one of us did it. Like, you talk about the most like enter a room powerful person maybe ever. It's her. Her presence made you great. I've been around a lot of really successful people in sports, and not one of them has the immediate like shock, awe, like I need to do what I'm supposed to do right now. We didn't play for her, but like we were like, what do? We stand up, tuck your shirt in. Hurry, where's your phone? Get your phone. Yeah, like, the whole thing. It was just nuts.
That's awesome.
We were all so flustered.
Kind of going off that, I'm curious how coming to Tennessee has influenced your views in particular on women's sports, with it being so important here.
Yeah, I mean, back when I played, it just wasn't as popular. There's still hardly any media coverage for women's sports, and that's a unique conversation because when they play women's basketball games on ABC, they pull great ratings, and yet we don't need to go fully down the support women's basketball deal, but it's gotten a lot better financially. They're funded a lot more. The softball team is really good. I have the guy I do radio with calls all their games, and all the other sports as well. But I do feel like I'm more aware of their success now. And a lot of it's too because it's interesting. It's worth watching. Like when Pat Summitt coached here, we were great always. And now we're not great yet, but we're very good, and we're consistently getting better. And I think it's fun when you watch a coach from a coaching tree like that, like the fact that it is Kelly, and she's coming back, and she played for her, and she wasn't the most talented player on the floor, but she was the most like tenacious, and she's still very good. But I mean, like everything about her as a player, you kind of see coming out in the team with how they play. I just think that kind of stuff is fun. It's like the legacy lives on kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I know when I always say this on the air, but I always grew up here and just women's basketball was it. It was the thing. Pat Summitt was the coach. And then I grew up and realized that people don't really like it at all outside of Knoxville. And then it was a kind of a culture shock for me because I never realized that everyone goes to the Lady Vol games when I was growing up because more people went than the men's.
Well, and the game has changed a ton. Back then, there were 5 teams that had a chance to win it.
Right.
And Pat is responsible for building the sport up to where it is now. Now there's 30. There's still 5 or 10 great ones, but that's how it is in every sport. You know what I mean?
Right. For sure.
No, good. She was incredible.
Anybody else over there?
I mean, I can take things in a different direction.
Do whatever you want.
I'm curious how injuries have affected your view on football, if at all.
Wait, what did you just say? I don't remember. I've been hitting the head a lot. No. So, back when I played, if you got we called it getting your bell rung. If you got your bell rung and you came out, you were soft. Now, if you get your bell rung, you're not allowed to play. So it has removed the locker room stigma of, like you sprain your ankle, you break a finger, of course you're going to play. A teammate breaks a finger and he's like, oh, I broke my finger, I can't play. We'd be like, excuse me, what? We're all have broken fingers out here. Like, I think that the removing the concussion stuff from that part of the conversation, it's not in anyone's control. You can't tough it out or be, try to, grit it out and grind your teeth. If you have a head injury, you don't get to play. I think that part of it is really good. It's frustrating to watch sometimes for me because you see guys getting targeting injections and stuff, and there's no way they were trying to. The game happens so fast. When you slow it down, it's just unrealistic. And so I do overall like the more attention they put on it. Injuries, though, with playing through them is not new. Everyone's always done it. Everyone will always do it. The injury thing that drives me crazy, speaking of Lane Kiffin, is the fake cramps in football games. Like, guys, at least fake a shoulder injury or an ankle or something. They always just plop their fat butt on the ground, grab their calf or their hammy, like that's the only places you can ever get a cramp, and they just half lay there. If you have cramps are undefeated. They are the worst. And you cannot just tough it out. In the moment that your muscle is cramping, everybody's wimp. Everybody's soft. And these guys fall down. Like, I need them to go, let's put them in acting class. I took an acting class here. We have it. Put them in there and at least make it, because it's going to ruin the game. And they chose not to change any rules on it this year, which is a mistake in my opinion. So you're just going to see guys keep doing it.
Well, it's really detrimental to our team specifically, considering how fast the Heupel's offense moved. And what if you could make a rule to fix it? I know it's like hard because you don't want people who are actually injured have to try to be not injured, right? So what would
do
you
that? Listen, if the trainers have to come out on the field, you make it like this: if the trainers need to come out, then you have to sit the rest of the series, because if you truly are hurt, it should take more than 30 seconds to take you to the tent, show what's wrong with you. They say it's soft tissue. You're not going to make it worse. It's just going to hurt. Can you play through it? No. Here's something to help you play through it. Okay, now you're going to go play? Absolutely. Like, that takes minutes at least. And these guys come out for one play like their helmet popped off. Just make them come out of the game longer. If you just did that, then it would keep them from flopping around. Because if you're normally, though, here's the way around it. If there's one player on the field, at all times, there's a player that every coach says is expendable. So if you have a foolproof plan enough to transfer that information fast enough to get your bad player to fall down, you deserve it. That's incredible. The functionality of doing that would be so impressive to me. I'd be okay with it. But if you're a good player, you're not falling down. Right. And if you're hurt, you're coming out. And if you're not hurt, you're going to play, no matter what the rule is. Like, that's what bothers me.
Devin, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm so glad you said that, because that's what I believed also, that a rule should have been made like that, where you have to be out for the rest of the drive at least. Because you're right, if you're truly actually hurt, then why would they rush you back like that? So I'm glad someone as yourself, who's a former player who's played, said that, because that's exactly what I've thought about, that they should be out for the drive. And then just that rule alone, I think, would just stop people from even attempting to do that. At least if they're good players.
For sure. You get 3 timeouts in a half. So you get 6 total in the game. 3 and 3, 6 stoppages of clock. That's the coach who plays in the game and when they call timeout is the main jobs of the head coach. So Lane Kiffin against us got 6 stoppages of clock, and then he got 9 extra. So you think about when you're talking about one play, 1 foot backup quarterback stepping out of bounds, when you're talking the game comes down to that small of a margin, and Lane Kiffin got 15 stoppages of clock, and Heupel got 6. That's insane to me. You fix that rule before you fix player safety or anything else. I mean, that's crazy.
And with revisions for injury rules, obviously needing to happen so things like that don't happen where Lane Kiffin has 15 stops in a game, what are other directions you want to see for the game of football, not just collegiately, but in the NFL as well? I know there was a rule last season that was implemented which penalized players for minor celebrations on field. Obviously, you want to prevent some ridiculous showboating, but at the same time, there were some calls made that were pretty questionable by refs. What are other things you want to see in the game of football in the years to come?
I just think as much as you can, taking things out of the refs' hands. I think officiating, and we always do fundraisers for it here locally and stuff to get, high school officials. It's really hard because you don't get paid very much money, and all you do is get worn out all the time. So people aren't, it's like the old school guys are the ones, they're used to it. They grew up doing it, and that's just what they do. But getting the next generation of officials is hard, and you have to have it. These guys can't officiate forever, and the ones we have right now aren't that good. So taking as much out of their hands as you can and just letting them focus on their job. It's really hard as an official. I've gotten to know several that did it for, longer than I've been alive. And the hardest thing to do from a lot of them, they say, is to stay focused on exactly the task at hand and not get overwhelmed with all the other parts of the game happening right around you and what the coaches are saying to you and what the players are saying to you. And are they, flirting with it, hitting them late? And maybe there's so much judgment that goes into officiating. And it's a human game, and it's ref by humans, and that's part of it. Every team has stories where they got screwed, right? I mean, everybody does, but the more simple you can make the game for them as it continues to get more complex, I think it's really tough to do. But that's where my energy, if I was in charge, that's where my energy would go to.
Right. Did you see the Music City Bowl?
Oh yeah.
This year, yeah. That was one of the points where I was afraid that trash was going to come flying down again. Yeah. And it might have been I don't want to say it was justifiable. And for me to say that, me being in the band at Ole Miss, I got hit in the head 3 times with a full water bottle. So that
oh my gosh, so concussion protocol for Chloe.
That made me mad. But at that point in the game, I was so mad that I was like, I don't care if Tennessee is the villains. I don't care, because I actually met that official who made that call, like the head official that game he was staying in the same hotel as us. So I met him, and his name was like Jeffrey or something. We looked at it. We all the kids, we looked at each other. All the kids that were in the elevator with me when we saw him, we said, why would Jeffrey do this to us?
Oh, nice. Like I love it. Yeah, no,
I think that's just one of the many examples when that concerns people.
You bring up the Music City Bowl, though. You want to know what I said we need to do for our Tennessee football team this spring if we really want to take the next level?
What's that?
Put oven mitts on all the defensive backs in practice so they can't grab and hold.
Oh, gosh.
Put big, you can put nice bougie oven mitts on them so they can't reach out and grab anybody, because our DBs are way too grabby.
Let's use the NIL deals to fund that too.
Yeah, just get them nice ones. Get their initials on it. Get a power T on that thing. Yeah, ham it up.
Yeah, get it branded. Sell it to the fans.
Sure. Everything.
We're going to take a short break here. I know they got a few NIL questions for a little bit more NIL questions, other related things for you after the break. But we do have to take a short break here before the show is done, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes. So stay tuned to Rock Solid Sports on 90.3 The Rock.
Hi, this is Jason Isbell, and you're listening to 90.3 The Rock, bringing Knoxville new music first.
Volunteer Radio stays on air thanks to Cool Beans, the 21 Up college sports bar next to campus on Lake Avenue, a block off the strip. Cool Beans has 25 rotating beer taps and bottles, HD TVs everywhere, along with darts, pool, and arcade games. Open every day at 11 a.m. till late night. Burgers, wings, and sandwiches, Vol card accepted. Cool Beans hosts Rock Solid Sports every Monday night at 7, Trivia Tuesdays, Bingo Thursdays. More on Instagram at Knox Cool Beans or CoolBeansBar.com.
Volunteer Radio Radio remains on the air thanks to support from listeners and from the Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team, whose 2021-2022 home ice season includes games with SPHL rivals Fayetteville, Huntsville, and others at the Civic Coliseum in downtown Knoxville. The Ice Bears regular season runs through April 9th, and season and single game tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Tune in to WUTK Rock Solid Sports for the Wednesday Ice Bears news and updates. Volunteer Radio says go Ice Bears.
Volunteer Radio stays on the air thanks to support from Hangout Music Fest, May 20th through the 22nd on the beaches of Gulf Shores, Alabama. Hangout features rock, pop, electric, country, and hip-hop with 14 major headliners and over 50 other artists heard on the rock, such as Post Malone and Jack Harlow and Phoebe Bridgers, and more. All ages are welcome. Full lineup, general admission, and VIP passes available now at hangoutmusicfest.com. Print Shop Beer Company on Island Home Avenue is our local hangout sponsor with a registration box inside until April 11th. WTK will draw a winner from the box for a pair of VIP Plus tickets to Hangout Fest. Grand finale is set for Tuesday, April 19th, and more is at WTKradio.com.
Support to keep WUTK on air comes from listeners and from the UT Athletic Department and the UT Lady Vols softball team, whose home season schedule at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium features games against SEC rivals Texas A&M, Auburn, and others. AllVols.com for Lady Vols softball tickets and more. UT students need a valid UT ID for admission to all home games. WTK's Rock Solid Sports provides UT softball coverage. Volunteer Radio wishes the 2022 Lady Vols softball team good luck as they compete to return to the College Softball World Series.
Hey, this is Lee Fields, and you're listening to Radio 90.3, The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
The Rock thanks the Hill Bar and Grill for their support. The Hill on Forest Avenue, open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. until late night for dining indoors or on the expanded patio. The Hill has a variety of appetizers and a full menu of wings, burgers, tacos, and more. Trivia, karaoke, and weekend DJs upstairs. The Hill Bar and Grill in the Fort on Forest Avenue. On Instagram at The Hill Knox. Menu and catering at thehillknox.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2022 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smokies Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports will cover Smokies Baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com, and a link is at WUTKRadio.com.
The Rock thanks the Hill Bar and Grill for their support. The Hill on Forest Avenue, open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. until late night for dining indoors or on the expanded patio. The Hill has a variety of appetizers and a full menu of wings, burgers, tacos, and more. Trivia, karaoke, and weekend DJs upstairs. The Hill Bar and Grill in the Fort on Forest Avenue. On Instagram at The Hill Knox. Menu and catering at thehillknox.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to listener donations and support from the UT Athletic Department. After making it to Omaha last season, the 2022 baseball Vols season begins in February and runs into May, featuring games with SEC rivals South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Season group and individual game ticket info is at allvols.com. Students need to show their valid UT ID at the gate for entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
90.3 The Rock proudly brings Knoxville the best in new and classic, independent, and underground music on the Indie Owl. Monday nights from 8 to 10, hosted by former award-winning alumni from the WUTK Music Department and sponsored by Magnolia Records, 1515 North Central Avenue in Knoxville, and the Tomato Head Restaurant on Market Square and in the Gallery Shopping Center. Spinning cutting-edge music from around the world that pushes musical boundaries like noise pop, math rock, slowcore, shoegaze, garage rock, chamber pop, chillwave, and more. The Indie Owl brings you hard-to-find music from the artists that make it to the listeners who love it. The Indie Owl also provides independent artist news and chances to win Tomato Head and Magnolia Records gift cards. Tune in to Knoxville's true independent radio. The Indie Owl, Monday nights at 8, only on 90.3 The Rock, always bringing Knoxville new music first.
All right, we are back with Rock Solid Sports on Monday night with Erik Ainge, and we have only a few more minutes here, but we're going to try to get in our questions. I know you guys had a few questions about NIL for Erik. Erik, what is there any comments you have just right off the bat?
NIL is not a new concept. That has been happening forever. I used to joke with people when I went to the NFL as a 5th-round pick. I'd be like, man, I'm going to have to take a pay cut to go play in the NFL. I'm out of the statute of limitations. I can say fun stuff like that. But players getting hooked up on campus is not a new concept.
Right.
$8 million worth is.
Yeah, and from that standpoint, it's got to be, I don't know, Reggie Bush has got to get Heisman back. I mean, it's just it's absurd that they took it away because everybody, like you were saying, it was just common knowledge. I mean, look at SMU, for instance. ESPN did a great documentary on them. Everybody was vying for Eric Dickerson services. Texas offered a suitcase of money, and then SMU, I think, offered him a great car, and he took that along with the suitcase of money or something along those lines. So every school was doing it, and to do that to Reggie Bush was just absurd. I mean, it's...
Well, at the time, a full-on, like, big house for a family was a lot. You know, everyone was getting money. Everyone was, you know, here's the difference back in the day. Back in then, this will still be the case in my opinion. Here's how I separate it. If you pay a penny for a recruit, then I hope you get on all the trouble you get in, and I hope it ruins your football program. If you get players legitimately, and when they get on campus, the town and the fan base and the alumni take care of said player, who cares? I don't care if a guy has a new car while he's driving on campus. He's one of the most popular guys on campus. Very visible. Why not give him a car, right? I mean, like, but no. If you pay for, like when Hugh Freeze was paying guys 5 figures of money to go play at Ole Miss, I can't get on board with that. NIL cleans it up a little bit, but look at A&M. They got 6 5-stars. Why? They all had great NIL deals. Tennessee gets a 5-star NIL deal. That's the new fancy way to pay guys.
All right, Eric, thank you so much for coming on. I wish we had more time. That went by so fast.
You can invite me anytime you want.
Awesome. Didn't that go by so fast, guys?
Oh, it's amazing. That's just dream come true.
Short. It felt really short, but you know what they say. Thank you so much for sponsoring tonight's show. Cool Beans, 1817 Lake Avenue, just a block off the strip. Thanks, Devin, for going down to Cool Beans tonight, and we hope you all have a great night. Tune in on Wednesday for the other guys to come in and host, and tune in on Friday as well for our show sponsored by Fieldhouse Social and the Hill Bar and Grill. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night, and we'll see you on Wednesday night. So you're listening to Volunteer Radio 90.3 The Rock, rocking ears for 40 years.
Proud to be the award-winning WUTK 90.3 FM, Knoxville, Tennessee, broadcasting from the campus